anti-diabetic medication. Diabetes, it is basically a endocrine disorder. This is a basic point. The common endocrinological disorders in our day-to-day practice, that is the diabetes, thyroid, PCOD, and obesity. These are the most common endocrinological disorders in our day-to-day clinical practice. That's why we have to stress on these diseases in our day-to-day practice. Now, come to the particular disease, that is diabetes. Look at the cause. The maximum, it is said that genetic cause. The next, nowadays the most common cause, that is stress. The next one is obesity. Obesity in turn induced diabetes. The fourth one is unknown etiology, idiopathic. Okay, these are the four most important causes. Nidana, what we call it as Nidana for prameya or diabetes. Yes. Let you clarify how stress causes diabetes, because this is a new emerging pathology. Stress increases the body's cortisol level. Okay, we are having a stress hormone, that is we call it as a cortisol. Cortisol is considered as a stress hormone. So stress increases body's cortisol level. In turn, once the body's cortisol level is increased, then the patient starts suffering from insulin resistance. So insulin resistance in turn end up into obesity. That is especially a abdominal type of obesity, that is increased waist circumferences. That's why to assess the cortisol level, we are concentrating on the signs like that of buffalo hump and acanthosis nigricans. These are the two signs, acanthosis nigricans and buffalo hump. These are the two signs in patients where you can assess or you can say that patient is in a status of stress. So this is the stress, how it causes diabetes. Now, come to the symptoms of diabetes. Yes, in our books it is said that there are 3P: polyphagia, polydipsia, polyuria. Okay, excess thirst, excess eating, and excess urination. But nowadays in clinical practice, it is a little bit completely changed. In clinical practice, the patient ends up with rapid weight loss. Patient ends up with burning palm and soul, or patient consult with severe weakness, or nowadays we considered diabetes as a symptomless disease. That's why, irrespective of age, okay, consider either random blood sugar test or fasting blood sugar test under routine blood investigation. Okay, don't dependent on patient is having symptoms or not, because in the current status or current scenario, we consider diabetes as symptomless disease. That's why in your routine investigation, you add either random blood sugar test or fasting blood sugar test. Depending on that report, you go further. I want to highlight some basic facts, because pharmacology always deals with pathology. If you are having a strong pathological understanding, then you should have strong pharmacological understanding. Otherwise, it's of no use. That's why physiology, pathology, pharmacology interlinked, interconnected. That's why. What are the basic facts of diabetes? I want to highlight the organs involvement. These are the organs. Those are pancreas, liver, muscle tissue. These are the three main organs involved. In later stages, we are having a neuron and kidney and eyes. I don't want to talk all those things. In the initial stages, these are the three organs you have to concentrate their function, that is pancreas, liver, and muscle tissue. And hormone is, the main hormone is insulin. These are some basic facts. Okay. So we are having types of diabetes in day-to-day clinical practice. Type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes maximum it is a genetic origin, young age individuals. Type 2 diabetes, it is related to, especially related to, okay, genetic origin accepted. Other than that, acquired pathology like obesity, stress, and unknown etiology. Gestational diabetes, you call it as a gestational or gestational. So during pregnancy, okay, it may continue or may not continue. Double diabetes means initially patient is suffering from type 2 diabetes. After your oral medication, if the sugar is not under control, then we put him on insulin, then he becomes a type 1 diabetes. So this is a double diabetes, we call it as, okay. But in clinical practice, type 1, type 2, gestational diabetes. See, this energy mechanism is very important, because cells require glucose for the production of energy. So in the presence of insulin only, cells accept glucose. In the absence of insulin, in the resistance of insulin, cells inhibit or never ready to accept glucose. This energy mechanism, the interlink between cells, glucose, insulin is very important. Only in the presence of insulin, cells absorb or take glucose for the production of energy. Otherwise, it is not possible. This mechanism very important. Now, come to the pathology. See, I make it a simpler sense, because this type of pathology nowhere mentioned in your medicine books, because this pathology we prepared or we make it for the prescription of medication. Okay. What may be the pathology of diabetes? The first foremost pathology of diabetes is, okay, there is no production of insulin in the body. So no production of insulin in the body means insulin secretion is absent. So directly patient is, we consider patient might be suffering from type 1 type of diabetes. The second pathology means low production of insulin. Yes, insulin production is there from beta cells of Langerhans, but the quantity is low. That low quantity difficult to control regular glucose of the body. That's why here we have to prescribe some medication where the insulin secretion, the production of insulin is increased. The third pathology is resistance pathology of insulin. As I said initially that you have to, in the presence of insulin only, cells accept glucose. So if insulin is not ready to act or not ready to act as a mediator in between cells and glucose, then the patient might be a diabetic patient. That's why this resistance, here we have to work on resistance pathology of insulin. Here the opposite word of resistance means it is sensitizer, sensitivity and resistance. So here we have to sensitize the insulin that it should act properly, and it acts as a best mediator between cells and glucose. This may be the third pathology. The fourth pathology may be utilization problem of glucose. Yes, there is a production of pancreas is working properly. There is a sufficient quantity of insulin from the pancreas, but the body is not utilizing glucose properly. Okay, that we call it as a peripheral pathology. If body is not utilizing glucose properly, then the patient might be a diabetic. So these are the most probable pathologies we consider with respect to medications, because okay, because there is no clear cut mentioning of anti-diabetic drugs and indications, where to prescribe which type of anti-diabetic drug, and what may be the sugar level. If the sugar level is this much, which drugs we have to prescribe. If the sugar level is this much, such explanation we don't have. It is completely a trial and error. You have to give it, observe the patient, then you have to adjust the dose. Trial and error prescription. After trial and error prescription, once the sugar is under control, then that dose is fixed. This is the exact pharmacology or pharmacological understanding behind anti-diabetic prescriptions. That's why I will go through in detail with those all issues. Just see in total. So diabetes, these are the most accepted pathologies. See, accepted pathology with respect to our prescription medications. Okay, no production of insulin. Then here we have to give some directly we have to prescribe the patient with insulin therapy. Then if we infer that the patient is having resistance pathology, here we have to make insulin sensitive. That's why we are using some sensitizer drugs. Okay. If there is a utilization problem, then we have to improve the utilization process by prescribing the drug. If there is a low production pathology, then we have to prescribe such a drugs which stimulates the beta cells of Langerhans and improves the secretion of insulin. Okay. So line of treatment, this is clear line of treatment that I already discussed. If pathology is no production of insulin, okay, prescribed by injectable insulins. If low production of insulin, then you prescribe secretagogues. Secretagogues means which increase the secretion. If it is a resistance pathology of insulin, prescribe sensitizers. If utilization problem, then utilization again there is a problem with resistance by liver, then muscle tissue. Okay. So in such issue also you have to prescribe sensitizers. So three groups: injectable insulin, secretagogues, and sensitizers. These are the main three groups we have to consider in our prescription. How they are divided, we'll talk. This is ethics whenever you are treating diabetic patient. What is the ethics? For diabetic management, the first line of treatment is always diet. And the second line of treatment is exercise. The third line is medications. Okay. It is a bound duty of a physician that they should encourage the patient for first two line of treatment rather than third line of treatment. But the core issue, the problem with the patient is that our patients don't have patience. Our patients don't have patience when they heard the name of diabetes, that is sugar. They end up with anxiety, and at any cost they expect medications rather than diet and exercise. Still, it is our bound duty, ethics, try our level best to follow the first two line of treatment. If not possible, then start your prescription. Now, we'll talk something about sensitizer. This is the first group. Sensitizers, the word itself says that it sensitizes the insulin. It sensitizes the organs, muscle tissue. Okay. So they specially act on utilization and resistance pathology, as I already discussed about the four pathological aspects. Okay. These sensitizers decrease, helps cells respond more effectively to insulin. As I said that insulin should act as a best mediator. So these sensitizers helps cells to respond more effectively to insulin, and this sensitizer makes insulin sensitive. That's why it mainly acts on utilization and resistance pathology. Excuse me. Okay, sorry for interruptions. Sensitizers. Okay, these sensitizers acts on two pathologies, one on resistance and other on utilization. When it comes to the resistance pathology, this sensitizer helps to respond more effectively to insulin, helps to respond cells to respond more effectively to insulin. When it is with utilization, they decreases the liver's glucose production. These are the probable mode of action of sensitizers. They may act on resistance pathology, they may act on utilization pathology, they may respond, they may activate cells to respond more effectively to insulin, or they may decrease the liver's glucose production. These are the probable mode of action of sensitizers. Okay, again there is a dividation in sensitizers. The first best sensitizer is metformin. Okay, pharmacology it is called as see metformin. Initially it comes under begonoid class of drugs. Nowadays the word is out of pharmac book, begonoids, because only one drug remains in metformin, that is begonoid, that is metformin. Keep it in your mind, it acts 70% on utilization pathology, 30% on resistance pathology. So I already talked about what is utilization pathology. Here pancreas is working properly. The quantity of insulin from pancreas to the body is sufficient. The production of glucose is normal, but the utilization by the organs, it is improper. Because of that reason, the level of glucose in the body go on increasing. So metformin works on these issues. It helps the organs to utilize glucose properly and maintain the sugar level. And it acts on 30% on resistance pathology. How it acts on resistance pathology and what is resistance pathology, we'll discuss in later slide. Keep it in mind, this is very important from the point of Ayurvedic physician, that it never acts on pancreas. Okay, that's why any diabetic patient purely on a single drug, that is metformin, irrespective of dosage, simply you ask the patient to stop and start your anti-diabetic Ayurveda medication following first line and second line of treatment, that is exercise and diet. And keep it in mind, acts on peripheral pathology of diabetes. That's why when up to the level of drug metformin, okay, if you are controlling the patient sugar with metformin, that is, it is well and good, because don't touch pancreas if it is not required. So metformin never acts on pancreas, means you are not by prescribing metformin, you are not touching pancreas. It is the best part of your prescription. Now, what are the speciality of metformin? It never shows any hypoglycemic symptoms. That's why patient is on metformin. There is no need to suggest patient to keep sugar pills or chocolates or biscuits in their pockets. There is no need of such advice to the patient, because if he is simply on metformin, no need. The side effect of metformin is weight reduction. This is very important for us for where to prescribe metformin. So when it is its side effect is weight reduction, then it is preferably prescribed in obese diabetic patient. Keep it in your mind. Don't prescribe or don't consider metformin in a low BMI patient. Consider metformin in normal BMI or raised BMI patient, because the side effect of metformin is weight reduction. Stula pramehi, metformin. Because of its side effect, you have to consider. The next one is the side effect of metformin is lactic acid synthesis. Okay. What is lactic acid synthesis? When it is produced, the patient, diabetic patient on metformin, go for strenuous exercises. Then he comes with a complaint of severe myalgia. At that time, don't think that it is Vata Vyadhi, musculoskeletal disorders, etc., etc., etc. You screen the history of a patient, see that if patient is on metformin, suggest the patient to reduce the strenuous exercise. Otherwise, if you go for any type of abhyanga, etc., etc., the result will be fruitless. Okay. It is prescribed, see, metformin out of the box. Okay. It is prescribed in PCOD also. Why it is prescribed in PCOD? See, PCOD, the another name of PCOD is insulin resistance syndrome. Okay. Insulin resistance syndrome. What I talked something about resistance pathology. Okay. Here, opposite of resistance is sensitive. That's why metformin acts on 30% resistance. It sensitizes insulin. So once the insulin sensitized, in turn, it regulates LH and FSH hormone. Then automatically it helps in the management of PCOD. Again, metformin, again, if you are you want to prescribe in PCOD, again, obese type of PCOD you have to prescribe, not lean type of PCOD. Keep it in your mind, because the side effect of metformin is weight reduction. Come to the next class. So the first class, biguanoids, in that only one drug, that is metformin. Come to the next class, the glitazones. See, I make it simplified. It is a glitazone class, but the classical term for glitazones is completely different, and it is very difficult to pronounce. Those who are interested, you once go and read. It is very difficult to pronounce. That's why I make it simple, that glitazones. Okay, how to identify these glitazones? The suffix means the term, the word ends with glitazone, pioglitazone, rosaglitazone. Okay, see, it is exactly works opposite to metformin. So it acts on 70% acts on resistance pathology, but metformin 70% acts on utilization pathology, 30% acts on utilization pathology, exactly opposite to metformin. See, again, it never acts on pancreas, acts on peripheral pathology of diabetes. The side effect of glitazone is swelling and edema. So, diabetic patient on glitazones complaining of swelling or edema of palm, sole, or generalized edema, think of this drug and its side effect. See, it comes under third line of prescription, not the first line. Like metformin comes under first line of prescription, it comes under third line of prescription. See, I want to clarify some resistance. What do you mean by resistance? Never expect resistance pathology in newly diagnosed diabetes mellitus. Okay, never expect resistance pathology in newly diagnosed diabetes patient. I will give you one example. There are two close friends. Give you an example. Lokokti, general example. Two friends, they are very close to each other. Okay, but in their new friendship, they don't have any problem. As the time passes, like first year student, they are very close, second year close, third year close. Suddenly in the fourth year and the internship, due to some difference of opinion, they apart. Okay, that why they apart? Because of some difference of opinion. That's why in between cells and glucose, insulin acts as a mediator. Newly diagnosed diabetes patient, we don't have a resistance pathology. Okay, the mediator work, go on doing mediator work repeatedly, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, fourth year, like that. After that, insulin starts resisting or start avoiding the mediator work between insulin and cells. This is the understanding. That's why newly diagnosed patient, we never prescribed glitazones. We prescribe glitazones at least patients suffering from diabetes since from 3 years, 4 years. Means the understanding is 3 years. Means maybe the patient having resistance pathology after prescription of metformin, after prescription of glimepiride, okay, still sugar not under control. It is our inference that maybe patient is suffering from resistance pathology, then we are adding glitazones. That's why it comes under third line of the prescription. What is first line of prescription, second line of prescription, third line of prescription, we will discuss in later issues. So how to identify glitazones? Glitazones identified either with pioglitazone, ends with the glitazone, and pioglitazone and rosaglitazone extensively practiced. Okay, I think in clinical practice they are never practiced independently. They come in combination with either metformin. Usually it comes in combination with sulfonylureas, that is glimepiride, glibenclamide, etc., etc. So metformin and glitazones are considered as sensitizers. Now, secretagogues. See, this is very important. Secretagogues, it improves the secretion. Which secretion? Insulin secretion. So to improve the insulin secretions, where to act? You have to act on pancreas. Again, particularly you have to act on beta cells of pancreas. So beta cells of Langerhans. So these secretagogues acts on beta cells of Langerhans, stimulate beta cells to increase the productions. That's why again under secretagogues we are having two classes. One is sulfonylureas, the second one is maglitinides. Okay, these two sulfonylureas and maglitinides, they stimulates beta cells, increase the insulin secretion. The straight up is the understanding pathology is there is a low production of insulin. The second pathology, low production of insulin, we have to increase the quantity of insulin by stimulating. It is done by these two class of drugs. See, now come to the sulfonylureas. In day-to-day practice, how to identify sulfonylureas? It always starts with prefix, starts with gli. Look at the drugs: glipizide, glimepiride, glibenclamide. So always this drug prefix is gli. On the prefix, you identify it as these are sulfonylureas. So what may be the side effect? The side effect is hypoglycemia, because they are acting on pancreas. There is a insulin secretion. When insulin secretion is there, the quantity of insulin is raised at that time. According to the quantity of insulin, you have to supply the food. If food is not proper, then patient end up into hypoglycemia. That's why the patient who were on sulfonylureas, either you ask the patient to go for time to food. For sensitizer, there is no need of time to time food suggestion, but the on sulfonylureas, patients should ask to take time to time food, otherwise they end up with hypoglycemia. That's why patient is on sulfonylureas, ask the patient to at least keep chocolates or biscuits with them. Okay, in this prescription you have to ask the patient to follow this one. The side effect of sulfonylureas is weight gain. Okay, that's why drug of choice is Krashapramehi. Better to prescribe patient having low BMI, first you select this drug. Lean individual, the drug of choice. So, one more specialty of this drug is this class of drugs is they acts on beta cells. That's why acute management of raised sugar, especially in oral form. So acute management of raised sugar, we are having so many injectables and intravenous, intramuscular and intravenous therapies are there using insulin. But with respect to oral dosage, the acute management of raised blood sugar or high blood sugar, such management, it is best managed with sulfonylureas. That is glibenclamide, glipizide, glimepiride. Nowadays in practice, we are best practiced with glimepiride, glipizide and glibenclamide, not abundantly practiced, but glimepiride is abundantly practiced. These are the two things we have to concentrate, that hypoglycemia, weight gain, and acute management of red blood sugar with oral dosage. Okay. So, maglitinides, how to identify? Again, they are identified with the end word, that is a suffix, that is glinide, rapaglinide, mitiglinide, and netaglinide. Okay. So, as I said, the same as that of sulfonylureas. So, this shows the same action, same side effects, all, each and every aspect of maglitinides, same like that of sulfonylureas in clinical practice. Now, this is very important class of anti-diabetic drugs, that is voglibose, comes in the form of 0.2 or 0.3 mg. Okay, it only acts on carbohydrates. Okay, only act on carbohydrates means it specially inhibits the carbohydrate absorption from the intestine. That means it mainly acts on utilization properly. Where to prescribe voglibose? See, it is specially prescribed in raised postprandial blood sugar cases. See, in a few patients, their fasting sugar is always normal, but their postprandial blood sugar is always high. In such cases, it is a physician understanding that there is a utilization problem. That utilization is mainly with carbohydrates, specially treated or prescribed with voglibose, either 0.2 mg or 0.3 mg dosage once in a day, and it is best prescribed in raised postprandial blood sugar cases. Nowadays, DPP4 inhibitors. Okay, these are the extension of metformin and sulfonylureas. We call it as a gliptins. How to identify? Ends with a gliptins. DPP, dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitors, specially prescribed to type 2 diabetes. Those who have not responded well to drugs such as metformin and sulfonylurea. These are the drugs nowadays considered. But practically these drugs are considered where patient is in need of insulin. See, in practice, what happens if you ask patient that after prescribing metformin, and after prescribing combination of metformin and glimepiride, after prescription of metformin, combination of metformin, glimepiride and glitazones, still sugar is not under control. Then when you ask the patient that now we have to try with insulin, at that time patient got fear with insulin. Suddenly they are willing to change the physicians to avoid such phenomena. The practically I am talking, to avoid such phenomena, the pharmacological people come up with a drugs like gliptins, okay, which acts like uh, which acts equally like that of insulin, equally like that of insulin injections. How to identify it is gliptins, okay. Weight loss, the side effect of gliptin, the weight loss, okay, and it is being linked with higher rates of pancreatitis. That's why when the patient taking gliptins with respect to other anti-diabetic medication, alcohol is not a bigger issue, but with respect to gliptins, alcohol creates a serious issue, that alcoholic or interaction of alcohol and diabetes not recommended if the patient is on gliptins. Otherwise, the patient may end up into pancreatitis. This is very important phenomena. The physician must and should note in your prescription. So sitagliptin, vildagliptin, saxagliptin, and linagliptin. These are the gliptins available in market, and we are concentrating. So for gliptin, in practice, we considered them as a alternative to insulin. Keep it in mind. Alternative to insulin. After permutation and combination of sensitizers and secretagogues, if the sugar is not under control, then we are considering gliptins in our practice. Okay. I want to highlight because DPP4, it is an enzyme which destroys a group of gastrointestinal hormones called incretins. What are the incretins? Help stimulate the production of insulin when it is needed, reduce the production of glucagon by the liver when it is not needed. They slow down the digestion and decrease appetite. So protecting incretins from damage. DPP4 inhibitors help regulate blood glucose level. This is some how the DPP4 enzyme and what are the role of incretins in diabetic management. So other type of medication called incretin based medication, okay, yet not we are not practicing in our day-to-day practice, okay, that's why I kept it in one slide. The last one is no production of insulin. The no production of insulin, again type 1 diabetes type. Again you are having three types of insulins: short acting, intermediate acting, long acting, okay. I don't want to delve in detail with is this insulin therapy. Again, we need 2 more classes of for insulin. Okay. Now, I will give some ethical guidelines how to practice and how to consider which drug. See, why to go for lab test for a perfect diagnosis, for result-oriented treatment, to avoid probable complication. See, this is the famous saying that diabetic patient always dies because of its complication, not because of diabetes. Keep it in mind. Okay. Patient dies because of diabetic complication, not because of diabetes. Anytime patient, okay, OPD level, go for random blood sugar. If random blood sugar is very high, then screen the patient with fasting blood sugar and postprandial blood sugar, urine sugar and albumin, and with HbA1c. Okay. This fasting and PPVS compulsorily ask the patient to do it once in every month. So there is a problem with most of the time there is a problem with postprandial blood sugar. Prandial refers to full meal. Most of the patient after doing breakfast, 2 hours after doing breakfast, they are screening their postprandial blood sugar, but it is not absolute one. That such investigation you consider under random blood sugar. See, HbA1c nowadays uh, the significant test to know the diabetic patient status, whether diabetes is under control or not, and also your treatment is on the right path or not. This is nowadays most accepted test, either in research and in clinical practice. Once in 3 months, 3 to 4 months, exactly 120 days, because it all depends on random red blood sugars life cycle. Okay, patient says anything, don't trust your diabetic patient. Trust on HbA1c reports. See, nowadays serum C peptide test to decide insulin therapy. Okay, serum insulin to understand whether there is a insulin resistance or not, but routinely not practiced in diabetic management. Urine for microalbumin, it is very important to assess diabetic neuropathy. And keep it in our mind, if the sugar is more than 350, either it is random blood sugar, postprandial blood sugar, and fasting for blood sugar. If sugar is more than 350, always screen the patient for urine for ketone bodies. If ketone bodies result is positive or present, admit the patient, treat the patient with injectable form of anti-diabetic medication. Once the urine ketoacidosis becomes nil or negative, then you discharge the patient. Otherwise, don't take risk, because patient may end up with diabetic ketoacidosis, which is a silent killer or symptomless killer. So these are the three complications: neuropathy, nephropathy, and retinopathy. Okay. Okay. There are no clear-cut guidelines in our pharmacological book. Where to prescribe, which class of drug, how to prescribe, and when to prescribe which class of oral anti-diabetic medication on or on the level of sugar, RBS, PPBS, etc., and HbA1c, how to consider which class of drugs. Such issues are not mentioned in your pharmacological book. Okay, they simply go on naming the drugs and its indication. That's all. But in clinical practice, it is very difficult. Okay. The partially we accepted, there is some explanation regarding insulin dosage. Okay. Depending on scale method, you have to select the insulin dosage. For oral drugs, there are no such clear-cut guidelines where to use metformin, what may be the sugar level, what may be the HbA1c level. Such issues not prescribed. So treating diabetes means it is prescription on the base of trial and error phenomena. Okay, on the base you have to prescribe, observe the patient, decide the dose, then adjust the dose. At last, once the patient is adjusted to one particular dosage, at that time you have to stop your dose adjustment. You ask the patient to continue that dosage. Okay. How to start oral medication? See, in clinical practice, we are practicing 3 lines of drug therapy. One is single drug therapy, double drug therapy, and triple drug therapy. Okay. What is single drug therapy? Maximum single drug means either metformin, we are prescribing patient either a single drug, that is metformin 500 mg, sustained release, extended release, 500 mg or 1000 mg once a day, twice a day. This is a single drug therapy. Or especially in case of obese patient, obese diabetic. In lean diabetic, we are preferring, in lean diabetic, raised sugar level, we are preferring sulfonylureas like Amaryl 1 mg or Glimepiride 1 mg, single drug, okay, once a day, especially in lean, raised sugar level individuals. Here, the prescription restricted to single drug. So after the prescription of single drug, okay, after 7 days, after 10 days, when you repeat sugar level, either RBS fasting or especially RBS and fasting sugar, if the sugar is not under control, okay, at that time what we did, we raised the single drug dosage. For example, I am treating one obese diabetic patient, okay, whose fasting sugar level is high. I diagnosed the case as a diabetes. I started metformin 500 mg because I always start the drug with low dose or the first dose. I started metformin 500 mg once a day. Ask the patient to follow diet, exercise, consult me after 10 days. After 10 days, if the patients after the 10 days repetition of fasting sugar, if it is still high, okay, if it is still high, what I do, again I go for increase the dosage of metformin. I ask the patient to take metformin either 1000 mg once a day or 500 mg twice a day. Again I ask the patient to come after 10 days. Okay, after 10 days, if the sugar level is under control, okay, I thought it's my yukti that this is the dosage of a patient for that particular patient, dosage of a anti-diabetic medication for that particular patient. Okay, then my inference, my anumana, it is that patient might be suffering with utilization pathology. Because just simply prescribing sensitizers, okay, the patient sugar under control. Okay, if the case is after next, the second consultation, if the sugar is not under control with the dosage of metformin 1000 mg, means 500 mg morning, 500 mg evening. If sugar is not under control, either I may go for extension of dosage because the dose of metformin might be up to 1.5 gram to 2 gram. Okay, either I may go for extension or increase the dosage of metformin, or I will add one more drug. I thought that might be the patient is not having utilization pathology, might be along with utilization pathology, the patient might have low production pathology. That's why I am adding some secretagogues. So I will add Glimepiride 1 mg. This Glimepiride comes under sulfonylureas. It is secretagogues. It activates the beta cells of Langerhans. Okay, it increases the production of insulin. Okay, when I add another drug to this prescription, thinking that it is not a utilization pathology, it is low production of pathology, then that treatment considered as a double drug therapy. Okay, that prescription is considered as double drug therapy because patient is taking two sets of medication, two sets of anti-diabetic medication. One is sensitizer, one is secretagogues. Okay, after prescription of double drug for the period of 15 days and 20 days, if the sugar is not under control, then we go on increasing the dosage of that double drug therapy. Still sugar is not under control. Then we think that there is a resistance pathology. Okay, because we are working on utilization, we are working on low production. These two are not working properly, means the third pathology is resistance pathology. At that time, we are adding glitazones. That's why glycipase PG1. P means pioglitazone, G1 means glimepiride, glyciphase, metformin. If patient is taking glyciphase PG1 means it is on triple therapy. The understanding is patient is having utilization, low production and resistance pathology. This is something about single drug therapy, double drug therapy and triple drug therapy. Okay. It is left to you people. That's why I said that it is a trial and error base. Left to the physician when to prescribe. That's why it is my kind request. Try your level best to treat the patient with sensitizers rather than secretagogues. Don't touch pancreas in initial stages. Okay. Once you touch the pancreas, then it is very difficult to inhibit the pancreas action. Okay, keep it in mind. This is very important. That's why try your level best, maximum try your level best to treat the patient with sensitizers. And now come to how and which to start, that I already talked. Difficult to point out exact pathology. It is a trial and observe therapy. So expert opinions that obese DM or normal weight individual always starts with metformin. Lean DM and raised sugar level always starts with sulfonylureas, that is glimepiride. Rapid weight loss, patient is having rapid weight loss, starts with the sulfonylureas like glimepiride, because I initially said that high sugar level, emergency management with oral doses, the best drugs are sulfonylureas. Rapid weight loss, either you control it with sulfonylureas or insulin therapy. As I said that maximum single drug therapy in our practice, either metformin or glimepiride. So always start your prescription thinking that a patient is suffering from utilization pathology. Okay. As I said, I mentioned with metformin, prescribe its maximum dose, that is with the single drug therapy. If sugar not under control, think of low insulin pathology. Then you add another drug, then it becomes double drug therapy. If sugar, after going with double drug therapy, if sugar is not under control, then think of it is a resistance, and then you go for triple drug therapy. Okay. Now, insulin and sulfonylureas. The common, so nowadays the most common practice that patient is on insulin as well as patient is on sulfonylureas like glimepiride, glibenclamide. The combination is not the correct practice. It is incorrect practice, because insulin, it is a synthetic one. You are providing body a synthetic insulin, and at that same time you are prescribing sulfonylureas. You are prescribing sulfonylureas means you are stimulating beta cells to stimulate insulin. So external synthetic insulin and natural insulin. Okay, either you prescribe treat the patient either with synthetic insulin or treat the patient with natural insulin by stimulating the beta cells. If you are prescribing in such combination, the body is under confusion. Which one I have to consider, whether to consider synthetic insulin for glucose management or natural insulin for glucose management. That's why it is an incorrect practice. Okay, though most of the diabetologists practice, but they are indirectly destroying pancreas. Because of this practice, pancreas lose its ability to secrete natural insulin. That's why either you supply externally or you stimulate. Either out of two, you do one thing. This is one in this one. Then another one is renal disorders and pregnancy. Okay. Patient is having abnormal renal functions like raised urea and creatinine. Always the drug of choice for management of diabetes is insulin only. Okay. Because most of the oral anti-diabetic drugs are considered as nephrotoxic. That's why better for a renal health, better avoid oral anti-diabetic drugs in case of renal disorders. And even in pregnancy, insulin is drug of choice, no oral medication. This is a kind request. You have to keep it, at least you have to keep it in your mind that the patient should and must to maintain the renal health and for a health of a precious baby. One more observation, always ask the patient, diabetic patient, compulsorily time to time food. Otherwise, diabetic patients are more prone for fatty liver changes. Okay, grade 1 fatty liver changes. If grade 1 avoided, grade 2, grade 3 end up into cirrhosis of liver. This is very important. Why diabetic patients should take time to time food. Nowadays, the recent research says that diabetes not deals with carbohydrates, it deals with lipid. It is a disease of fat. New trends coming. This is a disease of fat or disease of lipid. That's why diabetes is considered as mother of all disease. You screen the diabetic patient, most of the diabetic patients, they are having abnormal lipid profiles. Keep it in your mind. Okay. Insulin injections. So this is one more important practice. Otherwise, you have to ask the patient to select 8 places. Okay. Those 8 places, inject in a chronological order. In one place, regularly in one place, there may be a chance of hypertrophy of a muscle. The dose of insulin expected, it is not absorbed if the hypertrophy of muscle exists. That's why insulin injections took in 8 places in a chronological disorders. Then the next important point is carbohydrates. Keep it in your mind. Don't give a wrong information to diabetic patient. Carbohydrates are not contraindicated. They are just restricted. Keep it in your mind. They are just restricted. Okay. That's why diabetes is the mother of all diseases. It is more prone for producing atherosclerosis pathology, in turn produces hypertension and dyslipidemia. So it may cause obesity, hypertension. So diabetes, it is always end up with hypertension, dyslipidemia. So such a combination, we call it as a metabolic syndrome. Okay, that's why. To conclude this anti-diabetic medication, understanding of pathology is very important. Before understanding of basic pathology, understanding of physiology is very important. And what I mentioned in my presentation regarding pathology, that pathology we prepared with respect to prescription of diabetic medication. Because it is an open challenge to you people that go and read anti-diabetic medication and there is no such explanation which drug where to prescribe, which condition we have to prescribe, what may be the sugar level, what may be the HbA1c. Such issues are not highlighted. In such issues not highlighted, then for a Ayurvedic physician, Parraya Avalokanam is very important. Knowing others, other faculties knowledge is very important to best practice Ayurveda. That's why that four pathological aspect we highlighted to prescribe the medication on the base of inference, Anumana Pramana. That's why I said anti-diabetic medication prescription is nothing but it is a trial and observe therapy. You have to try either with respect to class of drugs, either it is with respect to dose of drug, go for maximum, treat the patient, screen the patient, once the patient is having correct laboratory investigation, think that yes, it is the dose of the patient for that patient, okay, and it is the class of drugs for that patient, and it might be the probable pathology of in that patient. That's why trial and observe therapy, as Ayurveda says, diabetes purusham viksham. Okay, every individual you have to go for trial and observe, and you have to decide the which drug is suitable. Otherwise, you don't go blindly with single drug, double drug, triple drug. Okay, because you are not justifying your patients with ethical practice. That's why. What may be the solution? The solution is experience makes you expert. Okay, experience makes you expert. Practice makes you perfect. With these two, you incorporate the expert opinion in your senses, then definitely your prescription become ethically valid and you justify your patient's diabetic status. Otherwise, simply reading the pharmacology of anti-diabetic medication and byhearting it, it is completely different than prescribing anti-diabetic medication by understanding a inference-based pathology. This is my conclusion. So try your level best to understand anti-diabetic medication and its effect on the base of trial and observe therapy rather than reading the information in pharmacological books. With this, I conclude my presentation. I thank the organizing committee members of Nepal Students Association giving me this privilege, and I also thank one of our doctor, PG scholar from KLA University, Dr. Sumit, studying in our KLA Ayurveda College in the department of Kaya Chikitsa. Okay, I thank especially the students for patience hearing. Thank you one and all.
Thank you so much, sir.
If you are having any doubts, you can ask me.
Students, you can unmute yourself and ask the question directly to the teacher.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm Dakshayani, sir. Sir, is there any chance of getting diabetes in fatty liver patients?
No. You are asking
Vice versa.
A reverse question. Vice versa. Okay. Diabetic patients are more prone for fatty liver. Okay. See, fatty liver exists even in a lean patient. If you are not taking time to time food, and you are prone for fatty liver changes. That's why those who are prone for langanam paramaushadam, weekly, thrice, twice, fasting, such females are more prone for cirrhosis of liver unknowingly. Why? Because starvation is one of the cause for fatty liver. Grade 1 fatty liver, again you continue the starvation, then ends in grade 2, grade 3, then cirrhosis. There is no alcoholic history. That's why the question here is fatty liver patients are more prone for diabetes. It is not so. Diabetic patients are more prone for fatty liver. That's why I said nowadays the understanding of diabetes is not with carbohydrates. The understanding of diabetes nowadays it is with lipids or fats. New trend. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Students
Sir,
from
have you
okay, Pratima, please
hello?
proceed.
Sir, have you ever experienced any drug reaction when using both modern as well as Ayurveda medication simultaneously?
Pardon me?
So, have you ever experienced any drug reaction between using both the Ayurveda as well as modern medication simultaneously?
Okay, you are talking something about herb and drug interactions. Am I right? The interaction between Ayurvedic medication and modern medication.
Yes, sir.
Am I right?
Yes, sir. That is the question.
No, in my experience, I never gone through. Because why I am not gone through, because I know the modern pharmacology well and good. Okay. With this knowledge, I don't have any such type of bad experience with the using Ayurvedic medication with modern medication, because I know the patient is on this medication, which drugs I have to concentrate, which drug I have to delete. Such knowledge, because of such knowledge, I don't have any such adverse events with herb and drug interaction, that Ayurveda medication and modern medication. Okay.
Hello.
Let me give you some examples. See, it is a clear-cut description in Ayurveda also, that there are two types of prameha, krasha prameha and sthula prameha. Okay. These asanadi kashayam, especially with respect to asanadi kashayam, don't prescribe asanadi kashaya in krasha prameha, because asanadi kashaya kapamedohara. Better prepare it in a sthula prameha. Okay. Nisha amlaki rasayana, it is well accepted either in sthula prameya and krasha prameya also. Okay. Only the thing is nisha, again haridra, lekhana. So when you are prescribing it in krasha prameya, keep it in a lower dosage, lower effective dosage. When you are prescribing a obese patient, keep a higher effective dosage. Then it best acts as a rasayana. Okay, that's why. Even we are practicing Kshirabala in the management of Krasha Pramehi, Kshirabala, because it is clearly said that Krasha hi Brahmane. Okay, understanding differs. And in our practice, we are very sure that patient is on metformin. Immediately in our OPD, we stopped metformin irrespective of its usage. Even we stopped Voglibos without any second thought. We stop glitazones without any second thought. Okay, we stop glitazones any second thought. We stop metformin any second thought. We stop Voglibos without any second thought. Only we are very concerned with patient is on secretagogues. That is with sulfonylurea. That is patient is on glimepiride, glipizide, or patient with gliptins, or patient is on glinides. If patient is on these three group of drugs, and at that time we are very careful. At that time we are asking patient to maintain your dose as it is, and we are prescribing our medication. Then by permutation and combination, and by screening other lab investigation, we ask the patient to slowly reduce the dosage of those three class, that is urea, sulfonylurea, glinides and gliptins. In other oral medication, other sets of oral medication, no second thought, because we know the pharmacology and pathology. Okay, without any second, what they act, how they act, where they act, without any second thought, we stopped and we start our medications, Ayurvedic medication. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Ah,
Hello.
please.
Hello. Sir. Yes, sir. Sir, first of all, congratulations, sir, for such a simply told these complicated disease treatments. So,
Thank you.
I have one query in practice. So, in diabetologist, they are practicing allopathy diabetologist. So, no one diabetologist start with a single drug therapy. Either it may be it may be patients of obese or lean. They always start double drug therapy, either metformin or glimepiride, so that like sulfonylureas. Then how we can stop any one of that drugs?
See, that is the problem. In our
Okay.
clinical practice, I said, if patient is purely on a single drug therapy,
Okay,
either
sir.
on metformin, Voglibose, or glitazones. Usually,
Yeah.
glitazones not prescribed in a single drug. It is always comes under triple therapy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
we definitely stop. Okay, in
Okay.
case of double drug therapy. Okay, see the problem with these sulfonylurea, glimepiride.
Okay.
Why I initially said that try your maximum not to touch pancreas. Try
Yes, sir.
your maximum, treat the patient with sensitizers up to the last maximum dosage. Why? This is the issue. This is the problem for a Ayurvedic physician.
Yes, sir.
For our problem, we are asking the practitioner don't touch pancreas. See, the problem is once you stimulate pancreas, once you stimulate the pancreas with the external factor,
Okay.
okay, the pancreas stops its natural stimulation process.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
This is the physiology.
Okay.
This is the physiology that don't stimulate pancreas by external factor.
Yes, sir.
If you stimulate pancreas with external factor, immediately it stops its natural stimulation process. Once it stops natural stimulation process, then the problem starts.
Yes, sir.
Where the problem starts, there the patient starts suffering from low production, low quantity or low production of insulin.
To no production.
Then here, one more pathology exists. That pathology is resistance. Pancreas is not ready to go for natural stimulation.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's why. Yes, accepted the good question that it is very difficult to go for stop which drug we have to stop out of double drug therapy.
Double
My
drug
opinion is that without any second thought, you stop metformin.
Okay.
Keep glimepiride or sulfonylurea as it is. Okay.
Okay. Yes,
Treat
sir.
with your oral anti-Ayurvedic diabetic medication.
Yes, sir.
Once patient is under Bishakvasha, then
Okay.
if you are having a strong belief on your patient that he follows your diet and exercise regularly,
Okay,
okay,
sir. Yes,
then
sir.
definitely you take out glimepiride without any hesitation. Only the thing is you are doing your work, but your patient is not cooperative with first two lines of treatment, then your treatment fails.
Okay. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Bishop
Yes,
Kosha,
sir.
patient is under Bishop Kosha, definitely you will remove glimepiride. Okay.
Okay.
The second and the first one, metformin. There is no hesitation to remove metformin. Okay.
Okay.
In
Yes,
place
sir.
of metformin, you add our drugs. Okay.
Ayurvedic drug. Yes, sir.
Done.
Sir, I have one patient. One
Hmm.
male patient is there, 37 years old, having a 7-year history of diabetes. So now he is on triple drug therapy. He is taking
Okay.
metformin, pioglitazone, and glimepiride.
Okay.
1
No
mg
problem.
glimepiride is there.
What about glimepiride dosage?
Glimepiride is he's taking 1 mg BD, means totally
You
overall.
make
he
it
is-
a glimepiride 1 mg BD. Take
Yes.
out metformin and glitazones, and you add your anti-diabetic drugs.
No, sir. Again, his present condition is his fasting sugar is 230,
Hmm.
PPBS is 350,
Okay.
and his HbA1c is 7.6.
Okay. That's why I
Then-
said
yes.
here the problem is you added triple therapy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
After prescribing triple therapy, still your sugar is not under control.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Think
Presence
that it is
condition
a
is like that.
think that it is a double diabetes. Patient is in need of insulin.
Okay. So
Okay.
now he is not ready to take insulin.
Yeah, not ready to take insulin means you have to. That's why I said that insulin-like acting drugs, that is gliptins.
Gliptins. Yes, sir.
You add gliptins. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Then along with that, his PP base is always high.
Yeah.
Okay.
350.
Why Oglibose is not added?
Okay. We have to add Oglibose. Yeah.
Oglibose is best prescribed in postprandial blood sugar. His postprandial blood sugar is high. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Patient is not ready to take insulin. Then you treat the patient with glinides. Sorry, gliptins. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
That's why I said gliptins. Practically, when the patient is not ready to take insulin, then we are adding insulin-like derivative. Oral
Yes, sir.
insulin-like derivative, that is gliptins. You better try with gliptins. Okay. Plus
Yes, sir.
metformin. Add Oglibose.
Okay.
Definitely the patient's sugar will be under control.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.